Would it be weird if I got you something? You and Poe were both lying on his bed, not really making out, just sort of lying there together, while Annie was off doing something with Ladson. It was nice to just spend time talking with him. Not making out, not being physically intimate, just enjoying the fact that he was there. It was nice to just have someone to hold you at night, for no other reason than he wanted to. That depends, you reply as you prop yourself up on one elbow. Is this more wine? Because if I recall, that didn't really go over so well the last time. No, it's not more wine, Poe says with a chuckle as he scoots away from you to get off the bed. You pout as you move into the spot that he had recently vacated, a smile spreading to your face as you realize how warm it is, and you press your back against it as your head slips into the indent in the pillow that his head had previously occupied. Poe talks as he crosses the length of the room, opening the top drawer of a dresser as he does so. So, I found this a while ago, he says as he digs through the drawer, messily tossing things left and right. And I really liked it, but I didn't know what to do with it. He's silent for a moment as he digs around, and you arch an eyebrow as you stare at his back, wondering what he could possibly be talking about. So I talked to some people, and they helped fix it up for me, but I had no one special to give it to. He pauses, and you can see him pick up something small in his hands. Until now. He smiles at you as he turns back around, something small sealed in between both of his clasped hands. His usual cocky smile is betrayed by something unrecognizable in his eyes, and if you're right, he almost looks a bit nervous. You bite your lip as you stare back, trying to figure out what he had decided to give you. He hesitates for a moment as he sits down beside you on the bed and unclasps his hands to reveal a small stone, about 1.5 inches long and 1/4 inch thick. It's a beautiful, dark stone, although the blue looked almost purple as the light hit it, almost a soft periwinkle shade of blue. Most of the stone, though, was filled with jagged black cracks that were interspersed with streaks of the periwinkle blue, although spider-like veins of white ran like lightning throughout the stone, intersecting the seemingly random patch of blue and black to make an almost eclectic patchwork design. It's, sodalite, Poe tells you, and you can actually hear the nervousness in his voice. That was a wonder in itself. For once, he wasn't his normal, overconfident self, and you couldn't help but be secretly pleased that you were the one thing that seemed to rattle his usually assured self. I think. It's pretty, you say, running a fingertip across the stone. It's smooth, ridiculously smooth, as if it had been polished down until it was as smooth as glass. You run your fingertips along the sides to feel an almost but not quite rough sort of netting stitched around the stone that held it in place, although you couldn't decide if the color was more silver or more brown. It looked brown at first glance, but it seemed to almost glint with a metallic shine in the light, making it appear almost silver. It was stitched all the way around the stone where it came to a single small stitched loop at the top, where a velvety black cord had been looped through it, tied in the back with a single knot. Here, Poe says, and you bow your head forward as he leans closer and slips it around your neck. He leans back a little bit, still nervously gnawing on his lower lip as he appraises you. You adjust the black cord so that the knot is in the back, and the stone slips down perfectly between your breasts. You can see now, at this angle, that it looks almost like a perfect oval, but it's not quite, as the top of it is just a bit narrower, almost coming into a soft, rounded teardrop shape. This is really beautiful, you say as you turn it over and over again in your hands. You're on your fingertips over the cord, feeling the consistency in your fingertips. It had appeared to be softer when you first touched it, but now that it was around your neck, you could feel little grooves and indentations that seemed so familiar, and yet you couldn't quite place it. What's the cord made out of? Poe seems to hesitate for a moment, but you don't notice as you turn it over and over again in your hands, trying to figure out what the texture reminded you of. Is this a lace from your boot? You ask suddenly, and you can see Poe's jaw drop open as he's quick to launch into an explanation. I looked, he says quickly. I looked all over the base, but I don't know. I couldn't find anything that I thought really went with it. I mean, there's plenty of silver and metal lying around, but I didn't think that really worked, and you sit up suddenly and you press a kiss against his lips to stop him from talking, rubbing your nose against his as you pull away. So, you really like it, huh? I do, you tell him as you look down at it again. You're blushing and grinning, and for once you don't mind it at all. You look back up at him as you bite your lip, pleased to see your own expression of giddy excitement reflected in his eyes. And I like that you used your bootlace. It's interesting, unique, creative. It makes it special. It is, Poe says excitedly. The stone, I mean. I'm told that those stones are supposed to be good for all sorts of things, like intuition or just to increase mental acuity or even to focus your emotions. And so I figured, considering your force abilities, it might help you with that. You turn it over in your fingertips again as you puff out your cheeks. I think I'm going to have to add thoughtful to your ever-growing list of positive qualities, you tell him. Thoughtful wasn't already on there? He asks teasingly. I think it sort of fell into the realm of kind, you say thoughtfully, but now I think it needs its own separate category. So, you like it? Poe asks eagerly, and you purse your lips as you look back up at him. You know I do, you reply teasingly, but if you're going to have to ask me that all night, I may just have to go back to my place or I'm never going to get any sleep. Please, Poe says as he tosses himself down beside you, and you giggle as you roll out of the way in time to avoid being crushed. I don't think I could get you to leave, even if you wanted to. My bed is just that comfortable. Or maybe I just don't want to leave, you reply as you intertwine your legs together as you kiss him firmly on the lips. Maybe I'll just sleep here from now on. I might be strangely okay with that, Poe replies as he runs his fingers through your hair, and you can't help but revel in the sensation of Poe's touch, which was quickly becoming familiar to you. The only problem was that this touch was a little different from all the others that came before it. He hadn't particularly touched you in any different sort of way, but this touch suddenly felt charged with electricity, as if there was a current moving through him to you. You close your eyes and just embrace it for a moment, and as Poe's hand stills in your hair, you know he feels it too. I think I'm ready, you say after a moment, and for once you feel ready. Your mind isn't racing, it's quiet, and you're ready. This was the right decision. This was what you wanted. You were sure of it. You sure? Poe asks, but the question strikes you as funny as you roll over to face him. I am positive, you tell him as you press your lips against his, running your thumb against the rough stubble of his cheek. And, I mean, I'll prove that to you, if you want. Poe just laughs as he rolls over on top of you, and you can't help but let out a small groan of appreciation as you buck your hips up against his, wrapping your legs around his waist. His lip finds yours as he gives your bottom lip a firm tug before he works his way to your neck, kissing and licking as he goes, not quite using his teeth, but applying a light amount of sucking as he moves along the tender hollow in the very front of your neck. Honestly, you're a bit curious to see if it's enough pressure to leave a mark on you, but as soon as he stops and drags his tongue along the curve of your jaw, you know he's teasing you, and you quickly take the opportunity to do some damage of your own. You lean forward and yank the collar of his shirt aside as you bite down into the base of his neck, holding back just a bit, and you can hear Poe let out a small breath as he winces in pain. Easy, he says lightly. No marks, if you can help it. If I can help it, you say as you hook your fingers into the bottom of his shirt and lift it over his head. That sounded like a challenge to your ears. And what happens if I do? Are you going to punish me for it? Poe closes his eyes briefly in silent appreciation as you take the time to jerk your own shirt off over your head, throwing it casually to one side as you fluff out your hair. Poe's eyes open again, locking onto yours before daring himself to look down to your chest. Oh, so now you want to look? You ask teasingly as you climb into his lap and run your fingers through his thick curly hair. Are you always this much fun? Poe asks as he pulls at your bottom lip again, and you forcefully grind your hips into his, spurring him on. Oh, I'm always this much fun, you murmur as you abandon his neck and decide to tug on his earlobe with your teeth. Haven't you noticed? You're the one who's been putting up with me in the cockpit for the last few months. Not the word I'd use, Poe murmurs as he trails kisses down your neck and bare shoulder, and you whimper and moan loudly as you press your lips against his temple, running the tip of your nose against the side of his warm skin, trying to inhale every inch of him. Poe pushes you back down on the bed as he starts to unbutton his pants, and you quirk an eyebrow as you look up at him. Well, you waste no time, you say teasingly, and Poe gives you a look that you could clearly label as affronted. Oh, I'm just getting started. So, as you could probably imagine, this is where it's getting not safe for work again. She's intimate with Poe. If you want to read this chapter in its entirety, including the not safe for work bits, it's available on Archive of Our Own in the link below. And so I'll just read the quick ending here after the not safe for work bits are already over. And you had no idea what the hell he was doing fucking you. But you were humbled enough that he would even consider you half as good as he was to be able to be intimate with him. And for a moment you wanted to see yourself the way that Poe saw you, but you couldn't. Not when you were building this fast, as you dug your fingertips into his upper arms as you squeezed, feeling yourself release around him. He follows just a minute after you do, and you rest your head on his shoulder and allow yourself to snuggle as close to him as possible, wrapping your arms around his middle in a gentle but secure embrace. In that moment, Poe felt like everything you'd ever wanted, and you had him. And for a moment you let yourself believe that you would spend the rest of your life with him and Annie on the Resistance base. You would have a future with him here. You knew you would. That was something that had started slowly, but it was right, and it was real, and you couldn't imagine any way that this could end. Nothing to say now, huh? Poe asks as he gently kisses the side of your neck, but he sounds as tired and as winded as you are, and you just let out a little laugh as you press your lips into his shoulder. You smell nice, you murmur, and Poe pauses for a moment as he takes in what you're saying before he laughs, running his hand through your hair as he eases you back down on the pillow. You press your lips gently against his for a moment before you snuggle back into him, relishing how secure you feel in his arms. It had finally happened. You had finally fucked Poe Dameron, and you were all right with it. No, you were more than all right with it. You were happy. You hear Poe mumble something about something, and although you're too tired to hear exactly what he said, your ears do pick up something about a next time, and secretly you can't help but let a bubble of elation rise through your chest. Next time, I'm not going to hold back, you warn him. Next time, I'm going to bite the literal shit out of you. That sounds unpleasant, Poe muses, and it takes you a moment to register what you said before you giggle into the crook of his arm, resting your cheek against the warmth of his chest. And you can bite me, just not there. He adjusts himself slightly so he can get a good look at you. We never know when the Republic is going to pop by for an inspection, so I can't run the risk of putting the General in a position where she'd have to defend my honor, but feel free to mark me anywhere beneath the collar so you know I'm yours. The words themselves take a second to kick in, but you process their meaning immediately. So, you know, I'm yours. You put them all together quickly, naturally, the way Poe had said them, and instead of whatever reaction he was hoping for, you just lean your head back and groan loudly. You are too fucking perfect, you moan as you stretch out against him, and he laughs, pressing a wet, sloppy kiss against the side of your face. I'll take it you liked it then, he says, seemingly satisfied as he lays back into the pillow. You had no idea which thing he was talking about exactly, whether it was the stone or the sex or what, but If he had just provided you with a checklist, you would have just marked off everything. Yes, I liked it, and everything, and you tell him. You, especially. The other 3 words float into the back of your head, and they might have floated into the back of his. You're not sure, but you're not in any hurry to say them. You and Poe had decided to take things slowly, much slower than you had taken them with Kylo Ren, at any rate, and maybe that was a big reason as to why the sex had been so good. You couldn't say for sure, of course, but maybe the reason you took it slow and made sure you were right before each other, before jumping in and getting sexually involved, was the best course of action to make sure that you would have a solid future together. With Kylo, you hadn't thought that far ahead. The mantra of a 6-week or a 6-month internship was still a familiar phrase in the back of your mind. But with Poe, there was no time limit. With Poe, you had your entire future ahead of you, and you wanted it to last forever. It should have alarmed a small part of you, really, that you couldn't picture it ending, but at the same time, you were comfortable. You were happy. You had no reason to focus on such unhappy, melancholic thoughts when everything was going right. You had put in your time, you had suffered, and now you were finally reaping the rewards of all your hard work. Okay, so maybe there was no one out there holding the scales. Maybe there was no such thing as karma, but at least the Force was providing you with a much-needed break, right? After all, if you hadn't had Annie, you might not have even met Poe in the first place. Maybe this whole entire ordeal with Kylo Ren had been one long setup to get your happily ever after with a different guy. You would have scoffed at the idea back on the Starkiller base, but now that you had actually lived through it, you could say that it was worth it. Poe was definitely worth it. But that didn't mean Kylo Ren was ready to give you up just yet.